Hey, it's Vanessa, and welcome to a new conversation on energy. This one is going to be about the Scorpio full moon, which takes place on April 23rd, 2024. If you happen to find this video at any other time and you feel drawn to it, simply means I'll probably be sharing something that is relevant and resonant for wherever you're at and give you some energy tools to work with whatever is up for you. So keep tuning in. And essentially, I'm going to give you a little bit of overview around the characteristics of Scorpio, characteristics of the full moon from my energy perspective, and as always, some alchemy tools of how to best work with it. So specifically, I'm going to give you 3 key questions to consider as we move through this collective experience of the full moon and how that might show up in your life. So before I get started, as always, I want to welcome you here, whether you are new or returning. I'm really glad that you're tuning in, and I appreciate your presence. So please do like, comment, subscribe, click to get notifications, share with your friends, all of that good social media stuff that gets us out to more of my people. I really do appreciate that. Speaking of my people, I'm feeling a deep call to do a couple of other video shares on soul family and also being seen in the world. So if those two are of interest to you, I have yet to record them, but I have a feeling I might do so after this. Look for those if you'd like to learn more about soul family and also the power of being seen in the world. Anything else I want to share with you before we get into the topic? Just checking my notes here. Yes, coming up very soon, the Energy Guide program starts. So that is for those of you that are energetically sensitive or are becoming more so. So your intuition is getting louder. You're starting to sense different aspects of being able to read energy, heal with energy, guide others energetically. So all of these natural innate energy gifts are beginning to awaken in you, and you want to know how to navigate life from an energy perspective. So there's so much more in the program, over 24 modules that we'll be covering. Lots of meetups, it's a vibe, it's a whole thing. So please do check that out. It's vasmith.com/energy-guide, and you can get all the details there. And I think that's actually all I want to announce in this share. So I'm going to move on and give you the overall underlying energy theme for the Scorpio full moon. There were actually a couple of them, and you'll find this that as you begin to tune in to your energy read of the collective shifts that we're going through, right? There are different shifts, transformations, and awakenings that we're going through as a collective, and learning how to fine-tune your own intuitive take on it is going to help you know how to work with those energies in your life. That's one of the, I want to say, one of the rewards and just one of the deeper it's like a deeper alignment takes place within your system when you begin to navigate your life from that energy perspective and work with energy in a way that becomes really relevant for where you're at in your life. So the themes that came through for me as I was tuning into the Scorpio full moon, a couple different ones. The first one is from cocoon to connection. From cocoon to connection. So if you've been feeling like you've been in more of a hermit mode or a little bit more in isolation, or you're with people, but they don't feel like your people, and you're feeling like more of a longing to get reconnected with your people, and you have a sense that they're out there or they're coming soon, or you want to get connected with them, that's feels to me like an underlying component of this particular full moon. I'll speak more about Scorpio and the full moon in general, but I first want to get to the energetics because that's my specific take on it. So if you've been, again, in isolation hermit mode, or just feeling like you're not yet connected with your people, that is opening up this week. And so what happens whenever we have a big energetic shift, it happens collectively, right? Whether it's via the astrology or a full moon or simply a consciousness shift, because that's happening all the time anyhow. What that does is it evokes certain themes that we are meant to be become more aware of and more intentionally work through. And so the more you know what's there, which is really the essence of a full moon. Full moons are about illuminating, like you can see everything that's there. You can see what you're dealing with truly versus your spin on it or your assumption about it or whatever it is. You can actually just see what's there. That's the gift of a full moon. It's also, there's a sense of harvest with it as well. And so anytime you're paying attention to the full moon or paying attention to a new moon, new moons are about seeds, planting seeds. Everything's dark, right? There's like planting seeds in the soil, the darkness of the soil, what will become the harvest with the full moon. And so everything becomes illuminated. So from cocoon to connection is the underlying energy movement that's happening. So this week you might feel a tug on your system to become more out there, to become more transparent, to become more verbose, to become more connected with other people, like to make a little more effort, right? To just like, this is what I want and I am just going to go for it. So, and you may have found yourself in that action-oriented mode before, but because we've been more in a cocoon type of stage, we'd either self-sabotage or energetically shield ourselves, or there would be ways that we wouldn't, because it's like you're not supposed to go out of the cocoon until you're ready to, otherwise you're just all mushy, you're not yet formed. And so this is the week of emergence, so to speak. And so from cocoon to connection, so it's a really good time to be reflecting on where have you been isolated, where have you been cocoon. I go like this because that's what it feels like, just cocooning in this safe little space, and that it's time to move into a new kind of energy. So pay attention to that in your life right now and reflect on where that's shown up. The other very connected theme energetically that was coming through with the full moon in Scorpio is it's all clear now. It's all clear now. So if you've been used to having roadblocks or obstacles or things not opening up in the way that you think that they should, there's this real sense of both the doors are open now. You can just walk right through. And so there's an important reconfiguration that must happen within your own system to allow yourself to actually walk through the doors in a very grounded and embodied way. Meaning, if we've been used to having the doors feeling like they're closed, or used to feeling like we're not clear, or there's some sort of obstacle in the way, what we do, because we're a very adaptable species, is we begin to posture ourselves physically and also energetically as bracing for whatever it is that we've just gone through. So if we've been used to like all these obstacles, we're like, oh, oh God, what's next? Or, oh, I can't look, or, oh, not another obstacle. So we could be unconsciously still posturing ourselves like that when the doors are actually open. And so you really want to check in with how you're holding yourself energetically. How are you thinking about things? How are you feeling about things? What are you speaking to life? Like, what are the stories that you're telling other people about things? And because you have to remember, the mind always looks for evidence. It's always going to look for the evidence of whatever it is that you're focusing on. And so when you are unconsciously still focusing on this closed door dynamic or this cocoon stage, or that there's an obstacle in the path, then the mind is going to automatically look for that until you program it otherwise. That's what our job is to do, is to program the mind so it works for us. It's simply a tool, right? That's all that it is. And so powerful, or a super powerful tool, right? But that's what it's designed to do. And so we just sometimes forget that we're at the helm of that programming. right? That we have the power to deprogram or decondition ourselves, just as we do have the power to reprogram and recondition ourselves. So there's a recalibration that's going to need to happen this week, likely, right? I don't know what's going on in your life, but as an overall collective energy theme, you really want to look at where you've been bracing yourself for things to not work out, because that's what you've been used to. And to then, really see, affirm, sense, reprogram, the doors are open, it's all clear now. So those were the two main energy themes. Though I do want to give like just a brief nod to a third that's like kind of peeking in there, and it's about spiciness. However you want to interpret that, you can go with that on your own. But I think that has to do with the Scorpio type of energy, which can be very intense. But there's a certain, certain attitude with it. There's a certain, you know how it is when you have like salsa that's too spicy, and it's like the first bite that you take, you kind of, it'll burn your tongue immediately, or you like it and then the kick comes at the end, or the kick comes at the beginning, and then it settles into your mouth and you're like, oh, I really like this is the right kind of spice. So this week is going to invite you into the right kind of spice for you. So start playing with it. It's like when there's a lot, when you've been holding a lot of stress for a long period of time, you can easily, forget that fun and adventure and playfulness and pleasure and these very sort of Taurus themes, beauty, all of these different really enjoyable aspects of life are also available to you. When you're in a stress state, you forget, and you also don't feel like you can really access that. And so this week, because of the open door energetic, because of it's all clear now, you're going from the cocoon to the connection, and there's a little spiciness in there. Let yourself be playful. Let yourself, and if you feel for whatever reason that you can't, you're like, oh, I can't get there yet. Like, hey, that sounds good, but I'm not quite there. Then move your body. Your body is the gateway to, just allowing the energy that had been held in a very static way to really begin to move. So I say this as a note to self. Do a check. Okay, heard. All right, so just briefly, let's talk about, I already told you about the full moon. Really, it's about illumination. I've always loved full moons. I don't know if I was born on a full moon or not. I should probably check that out. But generally speaking, if we have an affinity for a certain phase of the moon, it usually means that we were born under that particular phase. But I just love it. It's like it's bright out. You can finally see what you're dealing with. And for me, from an energy perspective, I prefer that, because I'm always, it's like, when a situation appears to be one way and underneath it energetically, it's very different. Like energy never lies. And to me, the full moons don't lie either. They just show you what's there. For better or for worse, but then you know what you're dealing with. So it's great. It's a great liberator, in my opinion. Though for some people, it can feel a little wacky making, like you might feel a little discombobulated because there's so much light pouring in. And that might tell you that you've been holding a lot underneath the surface, which leads to Scorpio, because Scorpio it's all about what's underneath the surface. Spoken from a Scorpio sun perspective. I was born in the sign of Scorpio, and so I'm very familiar with its deep, dark, transformational qualities, which has been definitely a theme throughout my existence. So Scorpio is like the detective. It's always looking underneath the surface. It's about the phoenix rising from the ashes. It's about death and rebirth. It's about karma. It's about all of these, spirituality and energy and intuition, like all of these aspects of life that are driving us, but we might not be conscious of that. As Scorpio says, let's look at that. Let's go deep. And so, so really, this is a time of, it's kind of like double illumination, you know, we've got the full moon and then we've got Scorpio, and they're both like very penetrating kind of energies. They're like, let's look at it. So there can be a certain level of intensity. I will say that the more that you are in touch with energy, the more that you are moving through the world from an energetic perspective versus solely an emotional perspective, the freer you will feel. And it's not that we aren't supposed to feel emotions. That's definitely like part of the shtick of being alive in a human body at this point in time, is to feel and navigate the emotions. But once you tune into energy, you begin to see things from a more expanded perspective. You begin to feel a sense of like either neutrality, or like there's some space between you and whatever is pushing your buttons. And that space breeds new perspectives. It expands your own consciousness around whatever it is that you're experiencing. It's like grace. Like, I find being able to navigate life energetically is like grace. And because you can see what's there, you know, you're not as like all over the place emotionally. I mean, unless you're defined in human design, but that's a whole other topic. You know what I'm saying? Like, there's more room to see what you're working at, and you're seeing it from these multiple different perspectives, and that gives you a lot of freedom. Again, vasmith.com/energy-guide, because really it is the way forward to be able to navigate life energetically. What else do I want to say to you about Scorpio? I think that's it. So now I'm going to move into the three kind of key areas of how to work with it. I'm going to give you three key questions. The first question is, it's very scorpionic. What's dying, dead, or needs to die in your life? A little intense. Let's reframe it just a little bit for those of my non-Scorpio sisters and brothers out there. What that means is, what are you ready to be free from? What are you ready to be free from? It could be a belief or a perspective that you have. It could be a job that you're in. It could be a relationship that you have. It could be your own self-image, right? A version of yourself. So there's just it's like, we always know when it's time to stop with something, but oftentimes we can get a little mixed up around like, oh, if I just, break up with this person or leave this job or make this clean cut, that the situation will be completely different. Like, you're like, oh, I'm free. Except with Scorpio, so Scorpio says, well, what's underneath the surface of why you chose this situation in the first place, and how you've been working it, and how you're going to do it differently. Because otherwise you just recreate the same dynamic with a different job or a different person or a different life circumstance. It's like the circumstances or the details might look differently, but it's the same dynamic. And that's why you always want to work at it energetically. But so again, the question is like, what feels like it's dying, dead, or needs to die in your life? What do you want to be free from? And again, look at it like, and what are you going to do differently? Like, what's the new dynamic that you're setting into place? The next question I want to give you is, what wants to be birthed through you? So again, Scorpio, death, rebirth, big themes. I can't even tell you, I feel like I've been 500 different versions of myself. I mean, probably even in the last year. No, really, probably over my life. It's never boring over here, I'll tell you that. But it's really lovely too, because I will say that once you stop resisting the changes and the transformation that want to happen within your system, right? It's like your soul, it just like continually wants to be expressed and experience life in new ways. And once you allow for that and you stop like your human, your cute little human stops wrestling. I speak firsthand, stops wrestling with that and allows that transformation to take place. It's like the level of freedom and level of alignment and integrity and groundedness. And like it's like all of these concepts that sound so great and that we're after to experience. And that we get to experience them when we allow for the transformation. It's just, it really is like a different life experience and a different version of you. So let's go back to question number 2. What wants to be birthed through you? Now, if you're not a like metaphorical kind of person, then I know my son is, and he's like, can you please talk in more literal terms? I have to always communicate, clean up my communication with him or my metaphorical artistic type of way of expressing. So in more literal layman's terms is, what do you want to express, create, or reveal? What do you want to express, create, or reveal to the world, to yourself, to your partner, to your family, to your work situation, like whatever it is? What do you want to express, create, and reveal? So that's another more literal way to say what wants to be birthed through you. So Scorpio, death, rebirth. And then the last question I want to give to you has to do with, again, the new version of you. So there's a lot of talk in I want to say like the personal development space or spiritual growth space around becoming a new version of you. And there's many different ways that people talk about it. And I myself could talk for days about this, just on my own personal experience, my energy read of it, and how it plays out in my professional work as well. But one thing that we often don't consider is that we hold this high and mighty, complete version of ourselves, like as the one day I'm going to be this person, like one day I will be fit, one day I will have all the money, one day I will be super healthy, like whatever it is, one day I'll find my soulmate. It's like this version of you that exists in the far off future. It's a beautiful vision, and it can be, but the question that's coming through now is, what's the newest version of you right now? The right now makes it more relatable, more tangible. Like, I am different today than I was yesterday. Who are you right now in this moment? Because when you have this idealized version of you that's so far into the future, or, who knows how far it is, could be like a month. I don't know. Depends on what you do and what that looks like. But when you're looking at the version of you from right now, it really helps you better reflect on how you're different. Like, what are the incremental changes, the little steps that I'm taking that are actually making a difference to who I am right now and how I'm showing up right now. And so we want to think about like, yeah, how you're just a little bit different and who that version of you is. Because let's put it in a context now. As I'm making this recording for you, it is April 23rd, 2024. In the month of April, in general, there's been a lot of big astrology. I love astrology. I'm still a newbie in many, many ways, but I have found that it gives a lot of, it's just a different framework to understand energy by, right? Like, I've always been energy sensitive. I've always been a seer. That's something that's very easy for me to do. And so I navigate my world energetically. I see, I hear, I feel. Like energy is all the things to me. It feels more real in a lot of ways than physical reality. And so when I add onto this very solid foundation of energy know-how in terms of energy reading, healing, and guiding, and then I bring in this astrological framework, it just adds to the picture, right? Like, it just brings more different, different set of perspectives and contexts into the mix. And so from an astrological perspective, April has been, I'd say, like the most active month of the year. I believe that's what more advanced astrologers are saying, that it's just packed with all of this change. I know that when I was tuning into it simply from an energy perspective, I just kept getting acceleration over and over, and this like very excitable puppy dog kind of energy. If you saw my April energy read video, you'll know what I'm talking about. But so if we think about this in the context of the new version of you, here's what we just went through. We had the eclipse, which brought up, I did a couple of videos on the eclipse, and the post-eclipse smackdown as well, which, you know, you can just go onto my channel and see all the links to that. They'll be there as recent videos that have been put up. So we had the eclipse and the energies of that and how that affected us. Then we had April 20th, which was this big conjunction between Jupiter and Uranus in Taurus, which I also have video on that you can check out. So that was all about expansion and innovative type of change. And then we have this full moon that's happening today, April 23rd. So we've been kind of smack in the middle of a lot of big energies that could have triggered a lot of stuff to move through our system and to clear out, right? Like to really allow the gooey aspect of ourselves that's in that cocoon to, you know, become more fully formed, right? And be able to go out in the world and connect again. So we've got those energy frameworks that are influencing who we are now, right now, in this moment, and how that's different from even just April 1st, right? Which seems like forever ago to me. Then we've got the seasonal context. We are in spring. Spring is when we bloom, right? It may still be a little chilly outside, at least in the northern hemisphere. We're in spring, in the southern, we're in fall, but we're in a seasonal shift right now. That absolutely plays a part in how we experience life and how we experience ourselves. And so, you know, there's like the energies of the different of spring in general and how that's impacting you. And then we're looking at, right, like I want to say the energies of Aries and Taurus and Gemini, which all have a very, very earthy, ego identity kind of vibe to it. So, you know, this is a time to be thinking about those kinds of things and reflecting on how you are becoming different, and you are in the process of that right now. Then we've got these larger collective shifts that are happening right now. So whether you pay attention to mainstream news or not, we can feel when there's a shift that's happening in the consciousness. It may not register to us in a conscious kind of way, but it does affect our energy. And the way you might experience that is you might have heightened emotion or more pronounced physical sensations when there's a collective shift. Yeah, so there's my point is there are many different energies at play right now, collectively, astrologically, seasonally, and then we've of course have our own energy system shift, that is the high heart recalibration. I've shared with you, actually it was a few years ago that I was speaking more about that. That's a core part of the Energy Guide program, which really goes more into depth of how our systems individually are changing. And so because of that, there's going to be a new version of you. Who are you now, right now, in this moment? And how is that different than who you were yesterday or a month ago or last season or a year ago, right? And so noticing these incremental changes is going to make a big difference for how you perceive reality and how you move through the world. So these are the opportunities that we have on this illuminated full moon in Scorpio, the detective who's going underneath the surface with death and rebirth, and the phoenix rising up again, right? This new identity rising up again. So that's what I want to share with you. Thank you so much for tuning in. I really do appreciate your presence, and always love the like, comments, subscribes, shares, and clicking to get notifications. So thank you for doing that for me. I love that. And with that, I'll wish you well, and I'll be back soon with another conversation on energy. Take care.